Hello, hello. Welcome to Yin on the Rocks solo show today and next week. Dagmar's away. And looking forward to talking about the topic that we started on last time. Last time we called it Got Low Poison, and then realized that it's really more accurate as a got poison, because that's what happened with that milk campaign, right? Does anyone remember when that milk campaign came up in like my childhood? It seemed like forever that, when I think about it, there's all of those huge billboards encouraging you to drink your milk. And so that was kind of a crazy thing. Oh yeah, that's something else I can put on the list. So while I'm waiting for a few people to come on, do say hello in the chat. If you're there, I can talk about a few things that are happening in my world. Danny Katz just booked for a second interview in October. I'm also going to be having Stellium 7 on to talk about his new book. And having been a spy or a whistleblower, I have to look into his book. I'm not sure. I imagine you guys know about him. So those are two upcoming shows on the King Heroes Journey. You are on the King Heroes Journey channel right now. Welcome. Glad you're here. If you haven't yet been part of this podcast, I'm glad to host you. I am live on Facebook and YouTube and X and Rumble and Vigilante TV. It will be an upload for later on down the road. And while we're waiting for a few people to come and say hello, I am going to be depending a little bit on you guys for some interaction in the chat, because normally Dagmar and I would be riffing off each other, which is fun. And so I will just share a few things about what's happening in my world. First of all, if you're not already tuned in with me on Telegram, I know people complain about Telegram because you need a smartphone to use it. It's true, you do, but you can come and keep abreast on all of what is happening in my world on the King Hero channel. And then there's also a place where there's lots of lively discussion on the King Hero chat. And hello to anonymous guest. I'm glad that you could make it. Nice to see you here, and shout out to you for helping me take care of those. So anonymous guest, you use a PC, no smartphone. Okay, this is new to me. I thought you literally needed a smartphone to use Telegram. You're obviously proving that it's not true. You're probably the smartest Telegram person that I know, and lots of thanks for your help on keeping those chats clean. I also host law. If you're in Canada and you're really serious about court procedure, you can also join the Canadian Court Procedure Group. And that's just like strict law. That's no memes. That's no joking around. Sorry, we don't have fun over there. It's just for people who are trying to work through what actually is happening with their legal situations in Canada particularly. So yeah, I'm encouraged that you can go on Telegram without a smartphone. Let us know how you did that. It seems like magic. You can always come and see me on Twitter as well, where I post semi-regularly for sure about what's going on in the world. I see that Rumble just went live. So if you're on Rumble, come and say hello in the chat there. You can find me on Instagram, where I post semi-regularly as well. I am on Facebook, which I find kind of interesting. If anybody's here on Facebook, that my posts seem to be pretty shadow banned there, or it's just that people don't love me or something. I don't know what that is, but especially when I post about an interview or a show, then I find it gets very low engagement. So I don't know what that is. Hello, Mike New. Nice to see you. It's been a while. And the only difference on PC is messages are encrypted, or messages are not encrypted as they would be on a smartphone. But it's getting the account where it makes you verify on a different device. But I guess, how would you do that if you didn't have the phone? I guess it could be an iPad or something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, people always say, oh, I can't do it without a smartphone, which is sad. I do like to spend time on Telegram. It's a very easy way to message. If people want to send me a private message, that's a good place to do it. you can jump on the King Hero chat in order to find me. We also host the House of Free Will private chat there. And there's a number of folders with different subjects like the law. Although I do give myself permission to post memes. I did that yesterday, and like homesteading and whole food. And we have a Love Your Liver group in the House of Free Will as well, because I know it's a really difficult path to get into because of the programming that's so incredibly deep. Hello, Maya. Nice to see you. Glad you're here. Excellent attendance for this show. Fantastic. Glad you're here. Yeah, so that Love Your Liver group is priceless. I like it because people ask questions and then I get to see if I actually know the answers or not. I'm going to be going a lot deeper into that today to talk about my journey of the last year, things that have changed for me, things that have gone from mystery to being something I can understand and even somewhat predict and have control over, which I never thought would be the case. By the way, about the House of Free Will, if anyone would like to be a member, we just did a fantastic workshop on sexuality and how the polarity between men and women has really got wrecked, and how that's actually one of the bigger threats to society. Not like we lack threats, or I'm here to fear porn you, but it was so beautiful of a discussion with Topher in the private group there. So if anyone would like to become a member of the House of Free Will, let me grab an application link for you. It should be right here, but it's not. So I'll have to grab that somewhere else. And give me 1 second. There it is. So I do an application process just so that we know we are related enough to be able to get along, which is to me that was not, I think my notes might be spurging out here. Does anyone use their notes on Mac a lot? Some Mac guy saw my notes and he gasped when he saw, oh, darn, it's not working. I have to close my notes completely because it spurges. Is that about using that word correctly, by the way? Trying to pick up lingo from my son. So let's see. Okay, try this one more time. This is a link to apply to be a member of the House of Free Will. The application, not so I can judge you and see if you're good or not, but just to see if we have enough in common, and that the idea is that you will actually get along with members there and not run into too much conflict. That doesn't mean that we're all the same or we have all the same views, but I do have a beautiful experience of people being able to have different views on things and just discuss them and not get into like huge amounts of conflict. Shout out to the King Hero chat and people in there. Some of them are House of Free Will members, some are not. And there's been lots of debate in there in the last few months, and yet it doesn't erupt in people calling people names or saying like you're stupid or anything like that, or going into what is that ad hominem where it can happen. I was chatting with one of the members, House of Free Will members, yesterday, and he said, by the way, I'm defending you. Do you know this Debbie somebody? And I said, maybe, I don't know, because there's a lot of people that I haven't necessarily actually met fully, that they come into my world and they're around maybe watching podcasts or they're on my email list. And so it was on the Here for the Truth chat, and I was getting called a she demon. So put up your hand if that makes sense to you. A she demon. I think there was a few other expletives I got thrown in with the demonic David Whitehead and maybe one or two others. And there is Topher Gardner. He did a great workshop. I was just talking about that, and you will defend my honor. Thank you so much. And so did Paul. So shout out to you guys. I appreciate that. It's pretty funny because to go and defend myself, I didn't know exactly what to say that wouldn't erupt in an argument or, just them hurling more insults at me. So I just said, hi, Debbie, I'm right here, just to say, like, I'm seeing you and I'm aware of your comments. And then she shot out another thing. And then I just said, I'm right here, Debbie. I just repeated it, like, just I'm here because, for one, I mean, the internet is different when it comes to the ability to hurl insults, can be much more liberal, let's say, right? Compared to if you were sitting right in front of that person. Would you say that? Would you call me a she demon? And probably not. It probably wouldn't happen, but we somehow lose all of our social grace when it comes to the internet. And but it was fun. But the second time I said I'm right here, it shut it down, and the insults stopped flying. So I have the great pleasure of not experiencing that very much. I know there's stuff out there. I remember going on to Max Egan had posted the interview that he did with me a while back that I got all dinged for and striked on. And there, I thought, oh, I'll just go and entertain myself and read some of the comments on his video. Well, it was full of like, oh, she's a guy and she's controlled up. And, there was a lot of hating going on there. So I thought, okay, just back away, Beth. You don't really need to spend any time here or start getting into controversy, because that's just a big fat waste of time, in my opinion. What are you going to get out of it? Call somebody wrong and then they call you wrong, and it's not about logic at that point, right? When they're just hurling stuff and exposing themselves. And then everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Yes, anonymous guest, you are famous for having a quote or a meme or a clip of a movie to illustrate every point. That's like an amazing skill, actually. I am impressed. So yeah, let's see if there's anything else before we get into today's topic. Thanks everyone for coming. Definitely join in the chat. I'm going to be counting on you a little bit because my co-host Dagmar is not here today, and she won't be here next week as well, I hear. Yeah, great Tyson quote, totally. That's not my notes there. So yeah, I'm curious. Let's start with this, that what kind of food fads have you guys got into over the years? I'd be curious to hear from you. What kind of, say, diets have you tried out? And maybe you went a distance with it. Maybe you didn't stick with it very long for one reason or another. What kind of diet fads are out there? Hello, Steph. Nice to see you. Glad to have you here. I assume everybody is, oh, there's a good one. Eat right for your blood type. Very good. Very good. So this goes, okay, Toxic Bile Paradigm, Biocharisma. Yeah, right on. That's singing my song there. The eat right for your blood type. I remember I was sick with cancer. I was living temporarily in Vancouver. I went to see a doctor there. I ended up living there in order to go to treatments with him every single day. He was a naturopathic doctor. And this was exactly at the time when the eat right for your blood type information was hitting the streets and everybody was chirping about it or starting to chirp about it. It's lasted a long time in a way. It's kind of come up and out of my awareness. And I remember bringing that up with him and other people bringing that up with them. And he just said it's a pile of crap. So at the time I trusted him because I actually was trusting him with my life, and he was way smarter than I was. He was a tiny little Asian man, and he was from China, I believe, where he'd been trained in all of his what do you call it? Like acupuncture and herbal medicine, Chinese herbal medicine. And so when he came to Canada to do his degree in naturopathy, they ended up hiring him to teach a whole bunch of stuff. That's how knowledgeable he was. Just an amazing guy. Was of incredible support. He supported a lot of people. He considered himself to be a garbage collector because everyone came to him after they tried everything and nothing worked. And especially, it would mostly be that they tried the mainstream medical, chemotherapy, radiation, and then they'd come to him all broken from that stuff and hope against hope that he could pick up the pieces. And he had more success than anybody that I had heard of in treating that big C. If I don't say that word too much, it is a censorable one. But yeah, he just kind of said that eat for your blood type. I never actually discovered my blood type. I can't believe, honestly, how many times I've never donated blood, but they took blood from me a lot that was being a patient in that C system. It was just a normal protocol, which I don't believe in anymore. And they would take my blood and take my blood and take my blood and take my blood. And I remember one day I was doing the obligatory blood test, and they said to me, or I said, hey, how's my blood looking? How are the markers? How, because you always hear about the markers and, like, what do you know? What's the progress? And they said, oh, well, your kind of disease doesn't show up in the blood. And I went, what are you talking about? You take blood from me every single time, like you're weighing me on the scale or something? And, like, what are you doing with that blood? You all drinking it in the back room or something like that? So I put an end to it. That was the last blood test I ever did. Didn't even get so much as knowing my blood type out of it, although I probably could have demanded or something like that. But um, Me Too. Oh yeah, Me Too. Okay, interesting. I don't know. That's Me Too is more about I know it to be about when women were calling out men for supposedly raping them, and then they were lying. That's what I know. Me Too. I mean, not 100%. Obviously, that was a big movement, but I think that was definitely an engineered psyop to pit men and women against each other, next level. Um, uh, Diademo hasn't released his research on the blood agglutination of the lectins in food. Okay. All right. Yeah, lectins was a rabbit hole I did not go down. I remember when I was fasting, I was drinking some cucumber juice, and the woman I worked with said, don't have that because there's lectins in there. So, I didn't go any deeper than that. Looking back, how do lectins get in the bloodstream? Leaky gut. True. Yes, is that true? Like, the story that, say, Gaps told about the leaky gut is that your gut was full of holes, and then the food would leak out of your gut into your bloodstream, and that's why you would get reactions. Now, according to Toxic Bile Paradigm, it's the bile that leaks out of the gut and enters the bloodstream where it shouldn't be. Now, would there be food? There could be food, right? Because you're down. Say your digestion is down, you're not digesting food very well. You could end up with a mess of undigested food. Sometimes you see that, right? Like, oh, tomato skins. Body did not deal with that, or whatever it is. And then so it could be food gets in your bloodstream, but somehow, I don't know. That doesn't sound quite right for me. But the toxic bile, very, very much. And oh yeah, Steph, this is a big one. I was going to talk about the vegetarian green juice diet psyop. Yes, this was nearly the death of me. Thank God I met Garrett Smith as soon as I did, because I would have gone on into infinity. There are certain things about, like, first let's talk green juice, about green juice that seemed to work. So first of all, I would get high on that. That was something that I had done pre getting diagnosed with carotenoid slippery is funny. Um, and then, so yeah, I started to go even harder once I had that diagnosis. I was really going for it, like guzzling the green juice. At that time, I didn't even know about things like kale and chard. Other than they don't juice very well, they end up oxidizing like crazy and making a green foam. And it's like, who wants to drink a green foam? That didn't work. So I did eventually move away from those things that are so popular now. But I just would guzzle the green juice, and it would be full of cilantro and parsley and green lettuces, and dill was a favorite one. Turns out dill is still love your liver friendly, which is lucky. And tons of celery, just enough apple and lemon to make it not disgusting. I would force feed this to my son too. He hated it, but I just like, oh, it's good for us. It's good for us. It's good for us. Keep doing it. And it does get you, actually, I would have said it gave me energy, but in reality, it got me high. And now I know this to be about copper, because the greens are extremely high copper. They are a stimulant. Like most poisons are stimulants, like caffeine, like nicotine, and for sure copper. If you think that copper is a nutrient, It is absolutely not. And there's a ton of research to prove that. So don't fall for the psyops. Don't drink out of copper cups. Don't eat high speed leafy greens for that reason. Avocados would be off the table. Um, Nuts and seeds tend to be very high in copper. I think the only one that I'm aware of that doesn't have substantial copper in it is macadamia nuts. No one should have told me that. I just want you to know, because now I've been junking out on the macadamia nuts, and it's never good to junk out on nuts. I think it doesn't matter if it's a good one or a bad one. But that was a big part of my diet. So yeah, the green juice diet psyop, that one, I was so glad. It did move your bowels, but I think it did it because it was irritating the crap out of them. Excuse my bad language there. So yeah, it was, and then I also noticed in the later last years, it didn't really work. Like everything that seems to work, because of duration paradox, it stops working because it wasn't really working to begin with. It was just suppressing things. And then yeah, the vegetarian, that was a trend I got into very early on. I had a boyfriend that was really offended by meat. And so I ended up living with him in my early 20s. And he was just so like deathly offended by the fact that I would even eat meat, never mind eat meat around him or anything like that. It was a lot of moral philosophical issues around it, and he didn't want to smell it. He didn't want me to eat it. And so I ended up going vegetarian as a way to, I don't know, and I bought into it like, oh, okay, this is healthier and I won't get all of this disapproval from my boyfriend. And I remember becoming a vegetarian, and of course, much to the dismay and the disappointment of all of my family, that resulted sooner or later in I didn't get invited for family meals anymore because they were afraid of my judgment. And I gave it, right? The judgment I received, I passed on to my family. And so I was on my high horse going, oh, I'm so pure and righteous because I don't eat animals, and I don't torture animals, and I'm not part of all of that. Big ag, all of the, have you guys seen the fear porn around that? It's horrendous. I even when I was into it, I couldn't really watch that stuff because it's just like total gore. And I don't agree with raising animals in inhumane ways at all. And now, my meat choices are for the most part, or, a very large part, local farmers, which doesn't make it perfect. I've been scratching my head right now, wondering if I should bother to ask the farmers that I've been getting meats from if they use ivermectin. I bet they do, because it's considered normal. It's considered safe and effective for animals. And what do you guys think I should do if I discover that the animals are all ivermectined up? Now, is there anywhere to go? Because even getting organic meat in the store is probably going to have the same problems. Are we're all dosed up with stuff we don't even know? No wonder it's kind of crazy out there. So yeah, the vegetarian thing, that that lasted. When did I end up going back to eating meat? Somewhere in between my diagnoses. I was diagnosed twice with a lymphoma, and I believe it was between the second one. Yeah, when I met my son's dad, and I started eating some fish because I would go to the lake with him, and the fish would come right fresh out of the lake, and so that was my start into it. And then when I got pregnant, my protein needs shot up like crazy. And I started like, oh boy, I'm going to need a turkey dinner. And then I'm going to need a turkey dinner for dessert. And there was just this like, oh, and maybe I was catching up. And, people can go for a little while without proper amounts of protein through muscle meat, but that is going to catch up with you. And there's so many people that have reported to me how much better they felt right away just getting enough protein. And people are like, oh, you can get it from plant foods. And yeah, there is a certain amount. And then combining up your plant foods, say like the rice and beans classic, so-called complete protein. I don't know if that's true. Is it on par with the quality that you would get out of Meat, certainly you're not going to be getting the minerals like zinc and selenium and molybdenum, which I do believe are found in meat. But yeah, I do better with protein. Absolutely 100% better with a good amount of protein. One of the changes that I made in my diet in the last year was to eat protein first thing in the day. And then it's for my second meal as well. And I save the carbs for my last meal so that I am all proteined up during the day and energy is way better as a result. One of the myths that I want to address about eating meat is that somehow it's so difficult to digest. And people would go, oh, well, I only eat chicken because red meat's so hard to digest. And this I actually completely disagree with, because a few years back when my digestion failed completely, I one of the very first foods that I went back on slowly after fasting, which I regret doing, by the way, can talk more about fasting, is it was eating meat. So I remember we were traveling, we were in Ontario, I'm fasting. It was the stupidest timing. And then I started eating again, and we went to a gourmet burger place, and I only had the meat part, right? And it digested beautifully. Like that's something I was able to see, that when you only have meat, it's easy to digest. It's the easiest to digest protein, believe it or not. We think of that as like the hardest, but it's way harder to digest fiber. And especially insoluble fiber can be really hell on the gut. And so I think that's the mistake people are making. They think that they can't digest meat, but it's really the soluble fiber in their diet that might cause them grief, especially women, by the way. And yeah, so carotenoid Slurpees. Let's talk about carotenoid Slurpees. Are you talking about the orange ones? Are you talking about carrot juice? This was a fad. If you're talking about carrot juice, I never did fall for the carrot juice. That was something that it didn't look right to me. It didn't taste right to me. It tasted terrible, especially like I can eat a little bit, or I could eat a little bit of carrot here and there, just like a sprinkle of carrots in a meal. But when it came to a juice, it was no way. It was absolutely no way. There was a woman who was good friends with someone. I remember being at her place one night, and this woman had been also diagnosed with, I don't know what form of the big C. And then she came in the house, and she was dragging a 50-pound bag of carrots, because that was her regimen to heal, was juicing all of the glug, 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 glug carrot juice. And I can't say, what it was, but she died very quickly, like really quickly. So that carrot juice wasn't helping her survive, let's say, at all. Here's another trend that I fell for, sort of next level vegetarian, was eating only raw food. Now, I didn't eat raw meat. Put up your hand if you did eat raw meat. I don't think it's like that big of a problem, but I just couldn't go there. And so it would be all like raw fruits and vegetables and nuts, and very low grain, only sprouted grain. Well, it turns out that sprouts are a psyop, that you actually get more toxic as a food is sprouted. And this is sad, because it's now become trendy to have the sprouted grains. And you can go to Costco and get a huge bag of sprouted oats. Darn it, because that's not what you want. You don't want the food to be sprouted, because it is going to be much higher in the toxins that you don't want. So yeah, that's a drag. And the raw food, seem to serve a purpose at the time. It was post chemotherapy for me, and it seemed like it was detoxing. It seemed like there was a certain time, but it was also what I would call a diminishing diet, or what's the word? Kind of definitely a cleansing rather than a nourishing diet. And so it has a very short lifespan. I don't know if anybody has any opinion on the raw food diet. I do know someone who went the distance, and he's probably been doing raw food for 25, 30, maybe more than 30 years already. And you can see over time, he went from having a full formed body, not like he wasn't a big guy, but he was a normal guy, and he had a like a substantial body, or a good body. It was there. And then over the years, he became smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And how you can see this, I was actually on the phone with a guy yesterday who was saying like, "Oh, I'm so great because I only eat the fruit and the vegetables and stuff like that." And his face, it had become like so skinny. I didn't see him before, but this was the case with my friend, where the face like literally collapses because the bones are diminishing over time. And yeah, so that raw food, it might maybe has a place in a cleansing period, but if I was to cleanse now, I would do it with protein by far, absolutely. Speaking of protein, all of the protein powders, I was sad to discover that they are absolutely garbage. If you look into that, how protein powders came about is like a lot of the trends in food. It is a like a garbage byproduct of a process, right? So they found a way to sell us the garbage. Same with table salt, as far as I understand, that's a byproduct of aluminum smelting, or that's one of the ways that table salt comes about. And so, yeah, that protein powder is not a good substitute. And I was relying on it, and I was drinking it, and I had come to believe that it was the cure to inflammation. So the inflammation diets that are related to GAPS and some Weston A. Price as well recommended the protein powders, and a lot of foods end up with protein powders. And I ate my weight in protein pancakes for a while, and no wonder it didn't allow me to heal as fast as I could have. And I guess the one bonus for that is that I kept looking, I kept searching, and I found Garrett Smith, because had I been successful with all the pancakes, protein pancakes, which seemed good, then you wouldn't have discovered his work. Um, what about the low carb? Did anyone fall for that scam to not eat, mostly grains? That meant people were cutting grains out, that they were somehow they were demonized. I remember my mom was so upset when I said, "Oh, I don't eat wheat anymore," and she's like, "You mean the staff of life? You're not having the staff of life? What's wrong with you?" Kind of thing. And is that keto, by the way? It's funny how I've rejected all the terms, because I didn't go down the rabbit holes. So I just heard like ketosis is basically when you're starving and your body starts to live on fat. Is that correct? Anonymous guest. And Mike did keto for a while. Very temporary benefits. Yeah, it seems like every change that you make in your diet will have some kind of effect that seems positive. It can be because it's a pattern interrupt. And if the pattern of eating that you're in is something that's been a problem for your body, and it's like slogging every day, oh, that again, oh, that again, oh, that again, and then you do something different, it has like a kind of reset, similar to your computer, where maybe there is something wrong with it, but if you just turn it off and turn it on again, it can seem to figure itself out a little bit. But if there was an actual problem with your computer, it's not going to go away. It will come back, right? It's just still there. So yeah, that low carb is keto. It's all about starvation, and that's, to me, I think, part of the major propaganda machine that wants us to starve, because that's a major tool for warfare, is to starve the people out. Right? When my ancestors this was in Russia, and it was pre-Bolshevik Revolution, their village was attacked. And the first thing that they always did when they attacked villages was burn the food supply, right? Because hungry people are easy to control, and easy, and they die also, right? People die of starvation in a slow, ugly way. And so I think there's a lot of ways that our health trends have promoted starvation, and it's sending your body into starvation. To me, is the stupidest thing ever. And I'm so happy to learn that detoxing really only takes place through food. And I had never succumbed to the fasting trend. I just never had. I wasn't interested in it. I wasn't against it. Heard people talk about it and they were like, oh, it's the bomb. It's the bomb. I did witness one of the mentors that I worked with, Stefan Arnio. Shout out to the late Stefan Arnio. He would go and do 40-day water fasts in Costa Rica. He would sign himself into a facility where they would, a lot of people were doing a fast at the same time, and they would come and they would like make sure you're not going to die in the process because it is dangerous. And the first fast, he had a reset and he considered himself to be completely healed. And he wrote a new book and he promoted this whole kind of process. And I think the second fast went okay, but not nearly as well. And then the third fast, he died shortly after. Right. So it didn't go well. So the beauty of fasting is that you stop taking poison in, at least through your food. Now there's poison coming from every possible angle. So you actually are not stopping intoxing, but your body will not produce bile without food. And this is why toxic bile paradigm is the most important thing to learn about, the role of bile in your whole detox process. You won't detox without food. So this, to me, at the end of my fast, which was only 9 days, and my adrenals went absolutely crazy. My body was acting like it was dying and sending me into panic and anxiety, and nearly impossible to sleep because I was so hungry, and that was capturing my attention all the time, even after 9 days. And then, so yeah, that I will never go back. I mean, maybe I'll do a 1 day or a 3 day or something like that at some point, if I really felt like I needed to and I couldn't somehow just take out more poison from my food or whatever I needed to do. I don't know how I could take out more poison than I am at this time. But yeah, so fasting to me is just promoting starvation, and that's not a good way to go. Steph said she didn't eat carbs for a while only because they gave you gut issues and you would gain weight quickly. Now you make your own sourdough and you have no gut problems. Excellent. Way to go, Steph. And yeah, the gut issues can actually be for lack of having been eating, for lack of eating carbohydrates, especially grains, because your body stops producing the bacteria, right? The lactobacilli and the bifidobacterias that are stimulated to grow through the intake of grains and carbohydrates. I don't know if that's across the board, like if that's fruit and fructose or anything like that, or is that just grains? Feel free to share in the chat if you know. And we now know that weight gain is due to the holding of toxicity in your body, right? That if you need a whole bunch of extra weight, that's your body's storage way to put the poison in a place that's not so dangerous in fat. Most of the really problematic poisons are fat soluble. So that's why people have extra weight. And then, so yeah, they blamed the carbs on the extra weight. And it looked to be true because there was a time where they took all the fat out of the food. And oh yeah, that's another one, like high fat I got on the list here. And then they jacked up the sugar. Now this is processed food, so it's garbage anyway. It's not a good comparison. Just like trimming the fat off your meat won't make it low fat. It's not like that, or but you can drain the fat away, which I've now come accustomed to do. And then yeah, so we thought that the carbs caused the weight gain, but it's toxicity that causes the weight gain. And then by starving yourself of carbs, you might very well starve the bacteria in your gut and have and be stuck with digestion, right? So you can see how that went wrong. And Maya, yeah, fermented foods still help you with probiotics. Now, I did the classic natural health accident mistake, which was when you think something's good, then you have gobs and gobs of it. So I thought if a little bit of sauerkraut is good, then I should have, you know, copious amounts of sauerkraut, and I should force feed it to my child as well. And I should guzzle my kefir water that I still to this day make myself. My fridge would be, especially this time of year, would be absolutely jammed with ferments. I was thinking about getting a second fridge so I could just, store my ferments in there. And it was a lot of work for one, to put all those jars of food together. It's kind of fun. I still think fermenting is fun. It was fun when it would bubble up. It was less fun when it would explode across the kitchen. I did that with beware of apricots, fermenting apricots. They're very, very, very explosive. And so I still use a tiny bit of fermented foods in the form of kefir water and a little bit of apple cider vinegar just as a splash on food, not like the drink in it. And the 100-liter crock of sauerkraut, 2007. Wow, 100 liters. Oh my goodness, that's insane. Did you bury it in the ground like Koreans do? Or I guess that's kimchi, but I think they do. They do sauerkraut too. And so when Garrett said on one of my first podcasts how and I always heard this, one fork of sauerkraut is much more powerful than a probiotic pill. And so if a probiotic pill is substantial in its number of bacteria and effect, then why did I think it was logical to eat copious amounts of fermented foods? Why did I think that, right? Like it was because I got a little bit of a good result that established a belief. And then the belief also in the natural health world, at least for me, always carried this: more is better. If a little bit is good, then more will be more good. So yeah, I was eating way too many fermented foods. I was overwhelming my body with these bacterias, and it was a setback. So now I do way better on just small amounts of that. And yeah, so that good, and it's a time saver. I want to tell you, Maya. So if you're not a slave to fermentation, and then I'm not so, what's the word, greedy about vegetables when there's like a whole pile of something and I think, oh well, yeah, I'll just go and ferment this all and I'll have 69 jars in the fridge. And so yeah, I saved myself a lot of time this year. It's been a very relaxing harvest season, actually, really nice. And let's say all the neighbors finally said thanks, but no thanks after the first 2 weeks. Yeah, when you tried to share it with them. The fermented foods, it's back to starvation when they didn't have proper food storage and you could preserve food. But Garrett's point about that it's really rotting food, the food is rotting. And now, after 1 year on the Love Your Liver program, my taste buds have changed. And when I eat a ferment now, it tastes rotten to me. I just don't want it. I still have a few jars of sauerkraut I didn't let go in my fridge. I'll sooner or later give that to somebody or the carburetor or something like that. But yeah, it doesn't taste good to me anymore. It used to taste amazing. I used to think that was such a gourmet ingredient on my plate, and and orgasmic food and everything included ferments. Now I lost my taste. So go figure. And then, yeah, did anyone go for the high fat? This was an insane trend where I would eat gobs of coconut oil. I would eat at least one avocado every single day. When I put oil on my food, it would be a ton of it. When I put butter on anything, it would be like, thick slices of it. Like sometimes people eat cheese. I came full around to eating cheese, although not that much because I was aware it wasn't super, super well digested. I started to, when the whole raw milk fad came up, and we're like hot in that trend now. That trend is peaking. I don't know if it's going to disappear or not, but now a lot of people have relationships with their farmers and they go for that contraband milk. And so when I heard of it, I'm the rebel in me, like, oh yes, my eyes rolled, and I'm like, oh yes, this is let's go for the contraband. And so I was guzzling the milk and drinking my lattes with the raw milk, and fermenting some of that raw milk as well, getting all the fat in there. And then lo and behold, when you have too much fat in your diet, the reality is that you're giving your body exactly what it needs to store poison. So if you don't have the fat, then chances are your body might just be able to let that poison go right through. But if you have a ready-made package deal with all the fat, then that's not going to go well for you. Bulletproof coffee. Yeah, yeah. Putting as much cream. It would be, for me, heavy cream, 35% cream. I would make so much creme fraiche, insane amounts of creme fraiche. That was actually one of the very last things, the dairy that I let go of in the Love Your Liver thing, the raw milk summer of 2020. Yeah, 2022, pardon me. Yep, that's when it happened exactly. And the chocolate bombs, the fat bombs. Yeah, it was just pure fat. My son actually was so great. He's got a more intelligent palate than I do, and he would reject those outright. He would just like, get away from me with the fat bombs. And he would also say, get away from me with the raw milk. I would try to force it on him. And I would find that he didn't drink it. He just let it go bad. He's smarter than I am in a lot of ways in that, some of those basics. So yeah, yeah, the high fat and the dairy. I wasn't that into dairy, but when it was promoted as an excellent protein source, and all of this good stuff in there supposedly, then I was much more liberal with having it. The tallow trend is interesting because that one is fairly recent, and I sort of well, actually, I did glom onto that. So I was cooking with lard. Did I ever cook with tallow? I think I attempted to make my own tallow and I failed, but I bought tallow from farmers, and we've started to see all the body products show up, and promoting tallow is a really good thing to put on your skin and in your body, and it's natural and all this kind of stuff. And somehow, I don't know how they did it, but if you don't already know, an animal's fat is where they put their poisons. So you do not want to consume high concentrated sources of that. Tallow is not good. And then the icing on the cake for me was when the RFK guy started promoting it, and they started like championing for tallow. And I'm like, oh, for sure it's wrong and bad. If in case I had any doubt whatsoever, hearing a politician controlled opposition chirping that people should use tallow instead of, was it about the French fries and McDonald's or something like that? Now they're going to be forced to not use a vegetable oil. I'm not saying those are good in their processing, but if I have the choice between an animal fat and a vegetable fat, I'm probably going to go with the vegetable fat if I feel like I have to. The two oils that I will still eat a little bit every day of are a refined coconut oil. This I never thought I would eat. Just refined oils. I thought it was the other way around. You want the raw oil, the more closer to the source version of the oil. And I would always see the deodorized coconut oil and judge it and turn my nose up on it and like, how dare you? You wrecked the coconut oil. Don't do that. And but that's what I eat is just this refined. They call it deodorized. That's how I found it rather than refined. And it's actually really inexpensive in the store that I go to. Don't tell them, because if you go online, it's easily double. They just don't seem to know it's considered low class, right? So they don't know yet that it's actually the higher class. And so we'll just keep it quiet for now. um, I do hear that you can eat refined olive oil. Olive oil is ubiquitous. It's in absolutely everything. When you go to a restaurant, everything's going to be full of olive oil. And I hear that most of the olive oil isn't even really olive oil. that they cut it with all kinds of things, that there's not possibly enough olives on earth to make all of the olive oil that everybody consumes day after day. Like you go to Costco and they've got these massive jugs of that stuff. And but I do hear that if you can get refined versions of that, that's better. But good luck with it. I searched high and low to find it, and I did not come up with a satisfying version of that. So what I turned to instead was avocado oil. While I no longer eat avocados because of the fat and the copper, I will consume some of the oil because it doesn't seem to contain any wrongs. And that's just the tiny bit that I need to cook something up if I need that. Hello, D3. I hope your name is not after the vitamin D3. Used to cook with tallow, eat cream and blueberries, milk with egg yolks, orange juice and egg yolk smoothies. Yep, was supposed to be healthy, but never was worse once it overwhelmed you. Yep, yep. That was another thing that I did to come off my fast, was eat only raw eggs. At first, only raw yolk, and then only the whole egg. What do you say? Blown up blended up in a smoothie-ish kind of a thing. So yeah, I ate my weight in eggs. Eggs I just gorged on. I considered them to be an extremely healthy food. We have an excellent source of local eggs here, and I would just junk out on that. So I went very quickly from eating 3 or 4 eggs every single day to, when I went Love Your Liver, I started on 3 or 4 eggs a week. And then the last batch of eggs in my fridge ended up just being like, just sat there, and I didn't want them anymore. So yeah, that's a lot of vitamin A right there, D33. Speaking of vitamin D, that was a trend that I avoided up until the very, very, very end. And I think it was around 2021, 2022, when everybody was chirping about all of we don't need poison injections, and we don't need these chemical meds, but you do need vitamin D3. I had completely never ever consumed vitamin D in my life until that moment. They got me, and that was another one that I started to force on my son. He hated it again, right? A really intelligent palate. He knew that that was garbage. Didn't matter what kind of weird flavoring they would put in there to mask the taste. He knew that it was bad and wrong. And I was pro sun, so to me it was only a backup for our 6 months where we don't get proper sun here. Now I'm under the belief, this is a belief, this isn't something that I know, that all I need is for the sun to see my eyes, because we do go 6 months without really, exposing our body to the light, and I don't die, and I don't get that sick. And as long as the light can see my eyes, I believe of the goodness and the synthesis of the sun, what we get out of it, which I don't even think is a vitamin D thing. I believe it happens at least enough through the eyes that you don't have to be, like have every part of your body exposed to the sun. Having said that, I did last year join a tanning bed where every bit of me is exposed to the lights for very short periods because they're super high intensity. What I know about the sun now is that it is very detoxing. I should have known that for years, because when I got pregnant with my son, I started getting what I considered to be allergic reactions to the sun. If I got too much sun, I would bust out in a massive rash. Remember, my big pregnant belly was just all rashed up and like hot and itchy and awful for at least a couple of weeks. It would last if I got one burn, maybe longer. And from then on, since I got pregnant. So what happened when I got pregnant is I got more poison. Right, my body was busy protecting the baby from the poison, and sending it out into my skin. So this is what I know now, that when the skin comes in contact with toxins, or the sun comes in contact with the toxins, then it's going to cause a reaction. The sun causes your skin to detox further. This is something I learned recently. You actually want you want to bathe after the sun and wash that stuff off, because that's what it causes that's what it causes. And then it can also very much cause the poisons to get baked into your skin, and that's what we call a tan. We love being all tanned, but it's really a sign of toxicity in the skin. So that's one thing that Garrett reports after several years of doing his Love Your Liver and eating in that way, that his skin doesn't tan or burn anymore. So that's pretty amazing. Probably is going to be good for the aging process, I have to imagine. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see. Another one of the trends that I fell for briefly was the alkalizing diet that goes along with the greens, and eating a lot of alkalizing diets, saying that acid is poison. This is still a big myth that's going around. People say, oh, all of your disease, especially the big C, is due to this acid in your diet. And I remember going to my naturopath in Vancouver, the same guy, and saying like, hey, we can just all cure cancer by having an alkaline diet. And then he looked at me and he said, all my patients died on that. And I'm like, oh, okay, good to know. So that was my first indication. And now many years later, I'm aware of why it doesn't work. Number one, the pH process in your body is much more sophisticated than this acid or alkaline kind of quotient, where you can, take a test of your saliva or your urine and you have a sense of the rest of your body. It's not like that. So people, this is another big mistake one of my mentors made, is that he was guzzling baking soda water. And what do you do when you put your strong basic into an acidic stomach? Is you kill the acidity, right? When you kill the acidity, you've killed digestion. You've killed your first line of defense in the body against any kind of thing, because if there's no acid there to break it down or kill it or whatever, I know we don't believe in germ theory around here, but still, I mean, when you ingest living microbes, something is going to happen. Then that just ruins your digestion. It's an absolutely terrible thing to do for your digestion. It caused me to eat too much salt also, because I believed that was good and that was like the alkaline way to go. And so yeah, that's a big fat lie. I've known that for a long time, and it's amazing how alkaline diet 2015. There you go. You're tracking with me, AG. Very good. Yeah. So don't touch that with 10-foot pole. You actually, the much bigger risk is alkalosis. And that's what that can cause. That's why everybody needed to take a look at Garrett's stream on calcium, and getting too much calcium in your diet. Like the recommended daily amount is up and around, what is it? What is the RDA? Does anyone know offhand? That's based really on what you can get out of dairy, and people are suffering alkalosis. That is a major malady that they're suffering with. So, yeah, the alkalosis is a risk, and it is a problem, definitely. Paleo. Can someone define paleo for me? This is another one of the trends that I ignored. Paleo, is that like eating like the cavemen did? That reminds me of that, the whole food plant-based, then even more extreme medical medium, right? Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit more, Homelaski, about the paleo diet and what that includes? Is that's the whole food plant-based diet, paleo? It would be no meat kind of thing? So yeah, you can let me know. And is the alkaline diet similar to the apple cider vinegar diet? I don't think so. I never heard of the apple cider vinegar diet. Like people actually live on apple cider vinegar. Yeah, I don't know you could do that, if you could do that. I always thought it was stupid, based on my naturopath again, how people would say that lemons were alkaline when they're clearly acidic. When you put it on your tongue, it's acid. It's acid. And they say, oh, well, it's the ash. It's actually based on the ash test. And the ash test, according to my naturopath anyway, was completely bunk. in determining the pH of a food. So this is a place where AG and I would agree in going with your senses. Like apple cider vinegar is acidic. It is not alkaline, right? It's not alkaline, but people, I think, would say that it alkalizes you, and they're just lost in that pendulum between acid and acid and alkaline in a conceptual way where those two oppose each other, when it's really vastly more sophisticated and beautiful the way that your body handles pH as one element. And oh yeah, it wouldn't be a diet, it was a cleanse. Okay, got it. Yeah, the apple cider vinegar cleanse. Yeah, I guzzled my fair share of apple cider vinegar. I would, every time I had a bit of nausea, I would take that. It seemed to take it right away. And I attributed that to the microbes in it, the positive bacteria, so to speak. It did work for nausea. Now I would, if I had nausea, which I almost never have, I will turn to charcoal to adsorb it, actually, to be accurate. And I put a post on X the other day that I thought maybe would get some attention, but I think I'm the only one who liked it. And I woke up to the revelation that every single time that I eat, because I stay really close to the Love Your Liver diet, I want to feel good, that I actually do feel well after I eat. And I went like, hey, that was never the case, or it was sometimes the case, or it was hit and miss with the case. And you'd eat something, you thought it was good, and you got this like, oh darn kind of feeling. And it was very confusing because my brain believed what I ate was good, but in reality, my stomach's going like, no, that's terrible. What did you just do to me? And so now I have the luxury of feeling good every single time I eat. That's like miraculous. Put up your hand if you can say that. Now, I know some denial can come into the system, that people don't want to, I would go into denial about any signs after eating because I believed the food was good. So I would suppress my body's response to that, or I would try to come up with some other, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. I'm calling it the Love Your Liver diet. So this is, hello Danica, nice to see you. It is the work of Dr. Garrett Smith, and he is nutrition detective. That's what his website is called, nutritiondetective.com. And he created something called the Toxic Bile Paradigm in order to explain things that are basically unexplainable in our diets. And then, yeah, so his course is called Love Your Liver. And then so we end up just calling it a Love Your Liver diet. He might change the name of that because there's other Love Your Liver versions out there. But this one to me is the one that actually does love your liver. And Toxic Bile Paradigm explains nearly everything. I barely have a mystery. It doesn't mean I don't have problems anymore. It just means I don't have mysterious problems. And now, because of Toxic Bile Paradigm, I can fix the problem. I can see where I went wrong, which is usually detoxing too hard, too fast. And Joseph Finnegan, nice to see you here. Low poison diet. So that word was chosen extremely on purpose. There is no such thing as a no poison diet, Joseph. And that's very, very difficult to take in. Psychologically, that's hard, because I went into a period of mourning. Like, I didn't want to eat anything because I knew that there was some poison in every single food. Let's count the poisons. Help me out in the chat here. You got, the first very famous one these days is vitamin A, a fat soluble toxin, not a vitamin at all. Vitamin D we talked about as well. That's not a vitamin. That is another fat soluble rat poison, by the way. They kill rats with vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol. But most of the B vitamins are toxic. We've got the oxalates in the food, like you got chocolate is jammed with oxalates and copper. By the way, copper is another poison. We've got, what else is poison in our diets? There's this like cadmium, aluminum that makes it into the diet. That's not a huge one. what else? Especially things that we consider to be nutrients. But so because of our world and our atmosphere, I think contributing also, we've got the spray of chemicals at us day after day. The animals are consuming the grasses that have those chemicals on them. So there's no such thing as a low poison diet, but you can, or pardon me, a no poison diet, but you can vastly reduce the poisons by observing what is actually toxic. So that's my answer to that. I know it's disappointing, but it makes it, the beauty is that reducing poison does make a difference, because if you can get to a place where you are releasing more poison than you are consuming, then you're winning, right? Then your liver can actually keep up with it rather than being overwhelmed and needing to store in fat or in the liver, which is more common for those of us that are on the skinnier side. So yeah, no poison, not possible in this world. It's poison world. We are in poison world, but you don't have to worry about it or fret about it or be in a state of anxiety about it. And okay, so let's talk about, hello, John Logan Coots. Nice to see you here. Good to have you. And so let's talk about parasites. This is one of the natural health trends I never fell for. And there is an excellent live stream on Garrett's channel going into a lot of details. What people don't realize about parasites is that it was a craze that was invented by the Rockefellers. Right? People didn't have their focus on parasites at all until it was promoted. And why would they promote that? Is so that they could promote the so-called cure to the parasites. So what people don't realize about parasites, yes, they exist. And yes, they're probably in nearly every body. The reason being toxic metals, right? So copper, iron, cadmium, arsenic. What are other toxic metals? You guys got to help me out in the chat here. And so if you take something antiparasitic like ivermectin or wormwood, or what else is antiparasitic off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of them, but if you take an antiparasite, yes, it kills parasites, and it's also killing you. The reason it kills parasites is because it's toxic. Right? It's harsh. You know it because it tastes terrible. I made my own wormwood tincture. I was so proud of myself. I got some mescal, and we have tons of wormwood where I work at a farm, and I'm so happy with myself. And I start taking that after many years of avoiding the parasite cleanse. I started with this little tincture of my own aluminum. Yep. And then, so yes, the parasites are real, but they're not the enemy. They're there to clean up the toxic metals in your body. And if you reduce the toxic metals in your diet, then the parasites don't have food. It starves them out. They don't have a job to do. They won't need to be there anymore. So the parasites are not actually the cause of disease. They are the cure, right? Because if there wasn't anything to help you with all of the toxic metals that we take in on a regular basis, then yeah, cloves also, green walnut, exactly. Then we would, we would die of all of that toxic metal. And this is one of the principles I learned from Garrett Smith that I'm very happy to know about now, is how the body is always going to choose a slow death. What does that mean? Is that life in a body is really important. It's super important, right? We value it and preserve it for good reason, for good cause. And so the body's always going to make it the slowest possible death. And that's why it does a lot of storage and attracts the parasites. And good for you, John Logan, for having an open mind, because people end up very emotionally attached to their parasite cleansing. And yeah, I don't know why I was so disgusted by the idea of it. I wouldn't let myself think about it. I was just like, nah, I'm just not going there. Not going to think about it. And that saved me a lot of parasite cleansing, and it saved me a lot of that poisoning until the very end. And I did a little bit, but not very much because I got sick. That's when I had a total knock 'em down breakdown. So let's see if there's any other trends that I intuitively avoided and I can congratulate myself for. We covered parasites, vitamin D. I never did go for the liver and gallbladder flushes that are somewhat controversial. There might be a place for them to do that. I did become a very big fan of enemas in the shortest, or at the beginning it was coffee enemas because that's all the rage. The Gerson method recommends like 4 coffee enemas a day or something like that, some insane number of coffee enemas. Well, it turns out that's a lot of coffee. And, I don't know how many I had done, but not very many when I started to realize, because by that point I didn't drink coffee anymore and I couldn't take caffeine in any way, whether it was chocolate or green tea or white tea or, the multiple sources of caffeine and stimulants that are out there. My body already said, no, back off, you're done. You never get to have that again. Maybe, once every month I could have a little decaf shot of espresso for the sheer pleasure of that. But yeah, I had to completely walk away. And then so the coffee enema, I very soon realized they everyone would say, oh, that coffee doesn't go through your liver, therefore it doesn't toxify you. It does. I felt it. I felt the poisoning. I felt the stimulation. I'm a very sensitive type. And so I felt that, and luckily learned at that time from Kelsey Kenny, who I've also interviewed, who's also one of the people on the Love Your Liver team, where I'm doing consults with her. And then so she teaches about, and now she doesn't teach about it. They don't really promote enemas. They don't think that that's the way to go, but it's good for me. Sorry, this is too much information, but to do niacin enemas. And it's beautiful because niacin stimulates your body to produce and release bile. This is a very big lacking nutrient that gets confused with niacinamide and is it nicotinate? No, that's the zinc version of niacin. It's niacinamide. Niacinamide is poison, but flush niacin is the one that we severely lack. There's a disease called, is it pellagra, that people suffer when they don't have enough niacin. And so a niacin enema is amazing because it does all the right things. 9 out of 10, I can go from what's called dumping bile. If you're not familiar with that term, dumping bile means that the bile escaped out of your gut and ended up in your bloodstream, causing you a headache, a gut ache, an earache, eruption of the skin, eruptions of your nose or your lungs, body pains and aches. All of those symptoms are signs that the bile has got out of your gut into your blood because of our leaky guts that are full of holes. And so I can actually stop a bile dump in 2 ways. One is the mental, emotional, spiritual work that I do, the inner work of deprogramming. I've been able to put a stop to it. Like, for example, a migraine headache, that's like miraculous. And also a niacin enema can have a similar effect. 9 times out of 10, I can stop a bile dump in its tracks, which is actually amazing. So, heavy metal detoxes, I do agree, but with the protocols out there, I wouldn't do any protocols whatsoever. So how do you detox metals? Number 1, get less toxic metals. And then that starts to free up your body in order to be able to handle more of the detox. One other way that you can facilitate metal detox is, like, first of all, say you have a lot of copper toxicity, which most people do. And that was like a main problem for me. Then there's a relationship between potassium and copper detox. Your body requires potassium in order to release copper from the cells. And there's a really good live stream on Garrett's channel on this exact one on potassium. And so he talks a lot about detoxing copper in particular. And so I know that now when I'm dumping copper, and there's very specific signs, incredibly specific, that I know, can be tinnitus, can be jaw tension, can be when I get bitey, I want to bite like, fingernails or the insides of my cheeks or somebody or something like that. It's when you're wired tired, it's insomnia, it's skin eruptions. These are, to me, all copper toxicity, my expression of copper toxicity. And then so during those times, I eat a lot more potassium, high potassium foods like bananas, kiwis, beans, and I also supplement in the form of potassium chloride. So that's what I do to detox um, heavy metals. And but if there's protocols and you want to run them by me, I can tell you what's going to work for you in there and what's not. I would steer clear of all protocols. Sorry to say, that makes me very unpopular with a lot of my friends. And I just personally would rather go with what's real and true. Unfortunately, any day, I'll go with what's real and true. So yeah, so that's about the heavy metals. And I never did fall for carnivore. It never seemed right to me to only eat meat. I never fell for eating liver. I remember, like, I grew up with a mom who would maybe every 2 weeks or so, liver would be on the menu, and it always tasted weird and strange, and didn't really like it then. And I remember buying some liver from a farmer, and I decided, like, I don't really want to eat that. I just don't want to eat it, even though everybody's saying it's good for me. Liver is loaded with toxins, especially vitamin A. You don't want that. That's like the garbage dump of your body. It's not a nutritious food by any stretch of the imagination. Don't take the pills or the capsules, the dried or the fresh. So I bought this liver, but I wasn't eating it. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just feed it to my cats. This is like some gourmet food, raw food for my cats. And then they wouldn't eat it. And I'm like, oh, interesting. They look at me like, are you trying to kill me? And I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay, so it's no liver for the cats either. And I just let that go. I didn't think about it. I didn't look into it anymore. And then discovered that liver is one of the most unhealthy foods you could ever possibly have. If you know about the Liver King on X, you can probably go back and track him, how he went absolutely insane. And this is one of the big things that I learned in this Love Your Liver process and education, which is a massive education if you don't realize so much I've learned in the past year. It's staggering. I can now read PubMed articles and understand not everything. I'm still learning, but understand a lot more. And then so yeah, if you go and track that Liver King guy, he used to look kind of healthy, and now he went absolutely batshit crazy, and he looks terrible. His face is all inflamed. He has that that nose thing when the nose just like becomes, like the fatty liver nose or something like that. That alcoholics get that too because they have liver disease. So yeah, that's a very sad thing that you can track the breakdown of the physical health. He became extremely, high conflict and fighting with people, and then I believe he got arrested in the U.S. He went after Trump or something, and then they got him. I don't know. I didn't follow the story very big, but I have started to piece two and two together that when the liver fails next level, that's when people get delusional. They get super angry. They get super like ornery and become a not good person at all. I've seen this on some people's deathbeds when the liver fails, and it's they can't bring themselves to be a kind, loving person anymore. So as the liver degrades, so does your emotional state. And so that actually helped inform my work in deprogramming quite a lot, because what I realized is I've been running with weights on, living with a toxic liver for most of my life. I can see signs of liver disease in my childhood. And so that's what motivated me to find at all cost the cure to the emotional state that it would cause me to be in. And And then it works. It does work. Like I said, I've been able to stop bile dumps, full on migraines, and to the point where I want to throw up. I've been able to stop that with deprogramming work. Why? Because the programming is intensely related to the physiology. The physiology informs the programs, and the programs inform the physiology. They work together. So working both angles is, to me, the absolute bomb for your health. Let's see. So, did I try the fruit diet? I never went full fruit, and I did really high fruit when I lived in India for some of the trips that I made there, and it always resulted in like massive, eruption from my bowels. It didn't want to eat gobs of fruit or only fruit, so no. And also, I'm sensitive to too much sugar. So when I eat too much fruit, I get too much sugar. I don't feel good, and so I never did go down that road of being fruitarian. And what do I think about tissue salts, Maya? I tried them. I took them. I bought them, and I tried them and I ate them and stuff like that, and I didn't notice anything. So that's just me. I don't think they're wrong. They're kind of on par with a homeopathy. So I don't think you can harm yourself with tissue salts. But I didn't notice anything positive. I heard Garrett say almost exactly the same thing, that he tried them. People rave about them. Steve Falconer, who I love and adore, but he credits his existence to those tissue salts. And so, yeah, that's his experience. But I didn't get literally notice any benefit at all. So yeah, carnivore never fell for. Carnivore is actually on the right path because you're getting enough protein, you're getting the minerals out of the muscle meat, if that's your choice for the protein for the carnivore diet, which is the hope. But that diet lacks soluble fiber, and soluble fiber is exactly what binds bile. It's considered a binder, right? So when you lack a binder, then that bile has no way out of the body, and that's where some carnivores will like, oh, I'm so great, I haven't pooped in 5 days, or something like that. And it gets very spare. I had a friend that went carnivore this summer to do some training, and he reported the same thing. Your bowels stop moving properly. You need soluble fiber. You need soluble fiber for, again, the bacteria in your gut, and then you need it to move bile out. If you don't have it, then it's not going to go well. So that's why one of the foods that is really great to eat on the Love Your Liver, that it's low toxin and it's high soluble fiber, are beans. Not every bean is the best, but white beans in particular are going to be low in polyphenols. This was another big psyop, that people were all eat the rainbow and foods of every single color. I didn't totally fall for that. Why? Because I don't want to eat tons of tomatoes brightly colored. I didn't want to eat tons of, unless it was sauerkraut, purple cabbage, or I didn't want to eat tons of orange carrots. I just didn't like them. They weren't appealing to me. I went green. For me, green is good. I had that belief that chlorophyll was, the elixir, that it was blood, like one molecule short of blood, and that to me, it was all the like green foods. So I never did fall for the rainbow completely, although I had rainbow foods in my diet. And yeah, a lot of people, how many people tried to say that, chocolate was such a good thing for you and it's a nutrient, and the whole chocolate industry exploded. Just, you used to go and be able to find, 2 or 3 or 4 organic chocolate bars. And now you go and there's like an entire section of nothing but organic chocolate products. And so, I like chocolate, but I had a very antagonistic relationship with caffeine, so I could never really junk out on it or treat it to be a health food. I tried, and then I would just react to it because it's full of, pesticides in the form of caffeine. So yeah, I never did fall for the whole chocolate in every single meal thing, like some people I know. Eat the rainbow equals apos. You corrected yourself here. Aposematism. What the heck is that? I'm going to have to look that up. Darn. And I can't copy and paste it from the chat. Aposem. Tism. Let's see what that is. Advertising by an animal, whether terrestrial or marine, to potential predators that it's not worth. Exactly. You got it. You got it. That it's not worth attacking or eating. It's a sign. It's a signal that color is signaling, don't eat me. Don't eat me. I'm dangerous. Yeah, exactly, AT. You got it. Yep, that's what all that color is about. And we think, how many people are romantic about, oh, it's so beautiful. It's calling me. It's telling me to eat it. It wants me. They will anthropomorphize the plant. That plant wants me to eat it like this, right? It's just calling for me, screaming, eat me, eat me. And it's just not like that. Every life form on earth has an imperative, and it is to live. As plants want to live, the second imperative is to reproduce, right? So they want to live and they want to reproduce. And if it works in their favor if you eat that thing and then you poop out seeds, which is the case for a lot of plant life, especially in the wilds, where a seed won't germinate if it doesn't go through the digestive tract of an animal. So they've got kind of a what do you call it, symbiotic relationship going on. It might not still be the best food for the animal, but it's maybe better than starving. So animals probably have a completely different view, and yeah, so it's signaling you not to eat it. Hello, Polly Vegas. Nice to see you. What is it safe to eat when all you hear is how bad things are? Okay, so yeah. This is. I'm glad you asked this question, because when I was new to the Love Your Liver diet, I went into mourning. I can't eat this and I can't eat that. I would go to the grocery store, I'd throw my hands up. I was like, there's literally nothing in here I can eat that's not toxic. And so if you want to be not sad like I was and have to deprogram all of that loss, I mean, it is a loss, and there is some grief, because there's major attachments to foods. Foods are emotionally attaching to the degree of the religion that, your attachment to your religion is similar to your attachment to your food at the level of belief and emotional attachment again. So anonymous guest is making a short list here of what's considered to be a prison diet. Now that's affectionately named after the guy who discovered the vitamin A, who is now unfortunately antagonistic to Garrett Smith, who took that work much further. This is not just the vitamin A diet or low vitamin A diet. By the way, I do have a list on Telegram, so come and knock on my door, either in the King Hero chat or anywhere else on Telegram, and I will share that list, a food list. It is missing one or two things. I probably have to make a new food list, but I have a list of all the things you can eat and some meals you can prepare. But it's greatly simplified. And so, yeah, meats like red meat, beef, bison, lamb, poultry would be turkey and chicken. So those are good muscle meats. Don't eat the organs in those cases. Don't also eat the collagen and the bone broth. That was something. So here I'm just going to tell you what you can't eat again. I was a bone broth kind of junkie, although guess what? I felt nauseous every single time I had it, every single time. But I thought, oh, this is good for me. Just like pretend I'm not nauseous every single time I have it. Turns out super high in copper, collagen. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we junked out on the collagen and ate gelatin and all that kind of stuff. So now if I make a broth, it's going to be a meat broth, which sounds bad, but it's not. When you make a stew and you just put the meat in water, it turns into meat broth, and then it makes a perfect gravy. And I use spelt flour for the gravy. So it's fantastic. And yeah, so the meats, and then the best fruits to eat are apples and bananas. Bananas, because it's super high in potassium and low in vitamin A. Apples are an excellent source of soluble fiber. I also eat green kiwis, high in potassium. Don't eat the orange ones. Figs have come on the Love Your Liver diet because of calcium. So, but I noticed that I started to eat figs again because they're delicious. Like, who doesn't love an organic fig? Oh my God. But they don't digest very well for me. So I went from a 6 a day. It was a no. Like, you're not allowed to eat 6 a day. I went to 3 a day. It was still a no. and now I just have one here or there for the pleasure of it, but it's not a food I can have in my regular diet. Yeah, Grant Jenner was that guy who's now at odds with Garrett. I actually helped Garrett put a rebuttal together on an attack that Grant made on his blog against Garrett. And so Garrett has 6 new articles rebutting point for point every single thing that Grant was accusing the Love Your Liver diet of lacking. And yeah, he might have some trouble himself. I mean, I love Grant. I appreciated his work. I had him on the channel here, but he's not sounding well. Actually, he's not sounding like a well person. He's not making any sense or doing science or research or anything like that. He's believing the vitamin A gang the calcium gang, I call them, that broke away from Garrett because they believe that you need to eat Tums and calcium supplements that are really terrible, that they're actually spraying us in the chemtrails. Calcium carbonate, by the way. You do not want to supplement calcium. You just want a certain amount, maybe around 500 milligrams a day from food, not the 25. I believe it's 2,500 milligrams that is the supposed RDA, but that's just based on dairy. And so what else? There's, like I said, macadamia nuts are a decent okay nut. Pecans would be like a sometimes nut, and the rest of them are just super high in copper. So I used to have a few almonds here and there, but now it's almost never. and then you got a big bag of apples. Yeah, apples rock. Some people need to peel them. I prefer to peel my apples because I don't want to get so much insoluble fiber. And some people usually men need more soluble fiber. So you can see for yourself. This is all about eating in a way that is going to work for you. There's no protocol. Nobody can say how much of anything, including supplements or foods, that you should eat. Let's see what else. Grains are good. Oats are considered good because they have beta glucan and they have a good amount of soluble fiber, but that can also set off detox. So if you get too much soluble fiber, you make too much bile, then that can cause either constipation or diarrhea, for example. And so yeah, I have to balance. I used to eat a lot of oats and I realized like I need to just eat some oats. My co-host for on the Rocks, Dagmar, she created a recipe for black banana bread. I've adapted it now to being less oats and more spelt flour because that's unfortified. I seem to digest spelt fantastic. I don't like wheat as much just for digestion, but spelt is for me always digestible. And so I adapted her black banana bread into my own black banana muffins now because they're better than bread. It's less time to bake. And yeah. And are meats not dead carcasses? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. You're right. But I'm not against eating a dead carcass. So yep. I won't defend that, but I know for my body and for my nutrition and my health, it is absolutely by far the best. I nearly died on a vegetarian diet. So, yep, that's how that goes. And Homeland Lasky said, paleo is lots of meats, sprouted nuts, ferments, made lots of kefir and kombucha. Right. Yeah, so similar to the traditional foods, the Weston A. Price diet, that kind of thing. Yep. And tons of eggs and very low fruit. Right. Yep. Got it. Yeah. So I wonder if we're getting to the end of the what I was going to talk about today, unless you guys have any other questions or thoughts. What else do I eat grains wise? Barley is a good grain. It's a low poison grain, but it's really high in insoluble fiber. So that grain can kick your butt. I bought a ton of barley at the beginning of the Love Your Liver diet, and I almost never eat it now. I'll probably, build it in a little bit just to even use it and store it, or not have to store it forever. And yeah, what else do I eat? Here, I'll talk just a little bit about the evolution of my palate and my diet. That like I've said several times already, I mourned the loss of all of these foods, and I loved variety. I could have, you know, 27 ingredients on one plate of food. That was to me like an absolute must to have all of these different flavors, and all the senses were getting stimulated by that. And so as I went on, and I learned to enjoy feeling good when I eat more than I missed the variety. And so that was a little bit of a good step. I also learned to love less preparation of all of the different ingredients, like chopping garlic. I never have to do that. Chopping onions, I never have to do that. I never have to cry it out while I'm chopping onions, and I don't have to smell like garlic, and I don't need a second cutting board because it would smell like garlic and onions and make everything smell like garlic and onions. So this is a very big time saver, this kind of diet. And then around the 6-month mark, I suddenly stopped having any craving for anything other than the nutrients that I needed. And a lot of my food addictions went away. I just, I'd walk by the avocados. It's like, yeah, I don't even want that. I'd walk by the, what else was I addicted to? Hot peppers or hot sauce or something like that. It's like, yeah, I don't need that on here. And what other kind of addictions, food wise, they just started falling away, and I stopped wanting them. I stopped mourning them, and I started being really, really satisfied with how I feel when I eat. And the simplicity is amazing because I spend less time in the kitchen. Now, it is a totally whole food kind of approach, right? So, you're starting with a whole grain and cuts of meat. So what I end up doing is batch cooking, and say, make a great big crock pot of beans. I'll soak the beans the day before, and then I'll cook them the next day. And then I'll batch it up and put portions in the freezer so that I've got them handy for myself there. And I'll do that with rice as well, although I know that's controversial. By the way, if you eat rice is okay. Very low soluble fiber, so good for people who dump a lot of bile. Actually, who don't want to make more bile due to insoluble fiber. Some people need more carbs, and that was me. I was starving myself, and that's partly why I'm skinny. And so Garrett had to tell me, like, eat more, Beth. And I had to turn to what we call empty carbs, like white rice and bread products and stuff like that, which I thoroughly enjoy, but I thought they were bad for me, so I was trying to avoid them. And so now I will enjoy white rice, but I will soak it in charcoal for at least a couple of hours first to pull the arsenic that's in there out. It might be naturally occurring. It might be because the foods were grown in places where there was high arsenic, like in cotton fields and stuff like that, where they used a lot of arsenic to grow cotton. And so kamut is your favorite choice for making things nice. Yeah, kamut is really good. I never work with it, but I do have a bakery, or organic bakery, and kamut is one of those like non-fortified flours because they grind it themselves. So they have a kamut spelt bun, which is really, really delicious. Hildegard's Bakery, shout out to you guys. It's not all fantastic. They also use fortified flours in some of their products. But so, Janice, yeah, you're confused, and I feel sorry for you. Not sorry, but I have compassion for you because it's a very confusing thing. We've been lied to. I now say that the natural health world is more weaponized against us than the mainstream health world. More weaponized, right? And they were both invented by the same guys. Parasite craze and vitamins, it's all Rockefeller invention, just like all the drugs and the pharmaceuticals, right? It's just two hands, red and blue. It's the same thing. If you didn't go for the mainstream, you went for the natural, and they got you either way. So meat and parasites. So for example, you don't eat pork, and that is one of the reasons, because they're not clean animals, or not considered to be clean animals. Some of my farmer friends get really offended by that because they say that their pigs are clean, and I believe they are more clean, but it's not a good meat. And so I'm not sure what you're saying. Like, does meat cause parasites, or you get parasites from meat? I mean, you don't want the parasites, but you're cooking your food. It should be killing the parasites. You wouldn't be eating a living parasite unless you're eating raw meat. I believe that would be the case. And pork is like human meat. Yeah. Well, pigs will eat humans, right? Sometimes they get rid of bodies by feeding them to the pigs. That's, I know, really gross, but yeah, there's something about them. I started eating more pork in the last 5 years, partly because I was just looking for more variety, right? And so I had just stuffed my freezer full of bacon, and I got a few of my friends, my son's friends are really happy because they got all my bacon recently. And hello, Artisier, you're very welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for having an open mind. It's not that common. People in especially the truth and natural health freedom movement, they don't like it. They have turned away from Garrett's work, and I find that really, really sad, because you can't stand for truth and look away from Garrett's work. I'm not making him into a god, or putting him on a pedestal at all. He doesn't have everything right, and it shows, because he will keep learning and keep bringing new information and say, oh, guess what, I was wrong about XYZ, and now here's what I would recommend you do. And so yeah, it is great information. He's somebody that I would rather work with, somebody who can admit a mistake rather than stick to something and hang on by their fingernails to something that isn't actually true, just because they've been saying that, or they made products out of that. There's no excuse to not at least educate yourself. I don't like shit talking anyone by name, but I hosted somebody here on the channel not too long ago. I still don't want to say their name, because it's just, it goes against. But I have taken their interviews down, and one of the reasons was after we actually hit it off, and I thought there was lots of good there and enough in common that there was a relationship could form. And then when I said, hey, have you looked into Garrett Smith's work? And they discounted it on one fact, that he's an ND. Right? He's a naturopathic doctor, and they just completely discounted it. Well, this person is a registered nurse. Like, what hypocrisy is that? So I won't judge them for being a registered nurse, but neither can you discount somebody's entire body of work by not looking at it, and just by reading the two letters after their name. Hello. Anyway, I've taken down very few interviews, but I decided I just couldn't promote them anymore. And Chrissy, I can't remember what I do meant. I assume that doesn't mean you want that you're going to marry me. AG said that's one of my prepper suggestions: raise pigs, because who has time to dig graves in a grid town situation? There you go. Interesting. I bought an ozone machine early on, when we thought all the people were going to be dropping like flies in the streets, and we were going to have dead bodies everywhere, and they would decay faster than we could bury them. So I bought an ozone machine just in case we needed to clean out some spaces from the smell of bodies rotting. But yeah, that's a good prepper suggestion there. You got it. They can eat all your garbage. They'll eat all of the roots out of they'll completely weed a garden. No problem. They will dig down and get every single root. They're like amazing at that. They'll like massacre the land at the same time, but they'll certainly weed it out for you, which is good. And yeah, exactly. Who has time to dig graves? That's hilarious. And you follow Garrett as well. Good for you. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, he's a good guy. I've worked with him now for a year, and closely in some ways. He's hosted me for a talk on deprogramming in his platform. So if you're in the Love Your Liver program, which I do recommend, then you can catch my talk on how to make the Love Your Liver path easier by combining it with the deprogramming work. And I'm actually in a series of conversations right now about my work with people. I asked, if you're on my email list, you might have seen an email. I asked for some help because I was lost. I've been through some knock 'em down crazy experiences this summer, including having become handicapped. I'm now starting to gain more faculty. I'm probably about 75% use of my hands, still not typing with more than 3 fingers. So if you get shorter messages from me these days, that's why. And a bunch of other stuff happened. I put my back out at the farm. I couldn't walk. And it was just like a real shutdown of my world, back to basic needs kind of thing. And so as I started to come back, it was just like, okay, what do I do now? What am I going to put out? What's next? I didn't have any clear answers. So when in doubt, ask people, where are you at? What do you need? And the help was for just having a conversation with me, so I can see through your eyes what you're needing of my work in the deprogramming and archetype work. So that's what I was asking for, volunteers to have a conversation with me. Well, 77 people put their hands up, way more. I was literally looking for a handful, and so I couldn't do it with nearly as many people as offered. So God bless you if you put your hand up. That was very generous of you to spend 45 minutes to an hour with me, telling me about yourself and about what you value, what you believe, what you need, what you're struggling with, so I can hear your words and I can see through your eyes and know better how to offer what I want to put out. And it has helped me. In a couple of weeks now, I've been doing these kind of interviews, if you could call them that, private interviews. And it has really helped me see that, yes, this work is needed. Absolutely. As long as people end up rooted in programming and making decisions out of the fear programming, we are utterly controllable. We won't create nearly anything because we're always stuck troubleshooting the problems that are being thrown at us. We won't have clear discernment every time a crazy psyop comes down, the every week version flavor of the day psyop. We won't have the ability to actually know real from unreal in a day of AI, especially. And so I am more convinced than ever that this is going to be good. And some of you might know I've run a coaching training certification for the last 6 years. I'm having a break, 1 year off right now. I'm going to start up the next one in 2026. But this year, starting in January, I am in the process right now of creating and adapting the work for a personal journey so that people could learn the tools of deprogramming, how to apply them to the map of emotions and the map of archetypes that are the hero's journey. And so they could have those skills so more people could be engaged in this work of deprogramming and gain more control over not only their own lives, but there could be some 100th monkey effect in the process where not everybody needs to do it. But I know that when I do my own work, it positively affects people around me. I see that in clients, I see it in my friends, I see it in my family. And so if we all started having that effect, not only on ourselves, but the people around us, then things could change more rapidly. And I am definitely about the speed. I was this close to calling it fast track freedom, but it sounds a little somebody told me it sounds too clickbaity today, but I am a fan of speed. Denise needs a gardener. Yeah. So do I, actually. Yeah, my garden went to absolute hell this year. I'm just rescuing it right now. And so if you're interested, what I've done now, because I don't have time for all of those conversations, then what I've done is put together a questionnaire. If you feel like you could help me out and you don't mind answering some questions through writing and telling me about yourself and giving me some feedback on this idea to run a 4-month course or group coaching. I don't want to call it training because when it's personal, it's more, it's more your own thing. You're not training to become a professional coach like the certification was. But yeah, if you'd like to, if you don't mind answering some questions, I can send you the questionnaire and then you can share with me where you're at. And that helps me to know more specifically, rather than just always be in my own head, creating out of my thoughts and my beliefs. I actually hear from real people, and that I find of great assistance. It's not posted, but if you would like to support me in that, you could send me an email to beth@bethmartins.com. That's Martens. You can also just go to bethmartins.com and fill out any form on that page and just say, hey, I don't mind doing your questionnaire. That would be great. You can private message me on Telegram, and you can find me on Telegram to see if I still have any links open. I did put it in the chat. It's way up at the beginning though. Let me see if I can get it again. Oh, weird. I don't see. There it is. So there, yeah, the King Hero chat, or that's the King Hero channel. You can't reach me that way, but you can reach me at the King Hero chat. So if you want to do that, then you can do that. Yeah, all roads lead to Rome. You can message me almost anywhere on Messenger. This podcast will be every single week, Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Central Time, and I will be regular with it. Dagmar will be back in 2 weeks to join me to co-host, and I'm not sure exactly what my topic will be next week, but I will be doing one of them. So lots of love for now. I hope everybody has a beautiful rest of your day, and I think that's it. All right, everyone. Talk soon. Bye.